Hello, welcome to my channel. Well, there's going to be some background noise, I think. These fellas are in the tree and they're a little bit noisy at the moment. So today, well, midweek camp time for a start, I'm going to wheel out the dusty old girl behind me. Yeah, so 1914 Model T, for those who haven't seen previous videos. Covered in a layer of dust. I haven't had it out all summer. It's been too hot, 40-degree heat, and these don't really agree too well. It's a North American designed rig, so yeah, prefers the moderate temperatures. So yeah, today I'm going to drag it out, put some air in the tyres, give it a full lubrication service. So I'm going to drop the engine oil and do the grease cups and other suspension points. I'll take you through those. I've also got a transmission screen, an aftermarket one. We'll take a look at that. I also want to take a look at the steering. So let's get cracking on it. Okay, so we're under the rig and we're dropping the oil from this point here. But observe that the crank throws dip into these little pockets here. So oil sits in the bottom, and as it flings around, dippers scavenge oil from there. So ideally we'll lift the front of the car up so that most of that oil can come out of there and we can get some clean oil in. Handbrake. If you think I'm getting under that, not supported by chassis stands. Got another thing coming. Alright, speaking of which, there's one. Where are we going to put these? Put them through here. That should do it. Right. Fifteen sixteenths, I think. Yeah, perfect. I'm filling up too quick. Let's get this off. Go open the breather, otherwise you overflow. Alright. Any chunks? A couple of chunks. Yeah, not bad. Alright, I'll just let that drain and move on to the next. Okay, let's change the filter screen, or let's clean the filter screen, or at least inspect. Wooden floors in this. I think the easiest way is to remove these things that are holding it down on both sides. And that's one piece of floor, and we just really only need 2 bits of floor here. And this is the transmission inspection cover. I also, actually, while I'm in here, last time I drove it, this is the brake, transmission brake. It felt like it had a bit of adjustment, so I might even take a look at that while we're here. Of course, there's some greasing points here. I'll go through that a bit more methodically. Alright, we need a screwdriver, a light, and we're going to get into there. Alright, so cover off. What we got here is neodymium magnets, so these little sphericals there. So I added those of my own accord probably about 12 months ago. You can see the screen's really quite clean. Normally they don't have this at all, so it's like a little it intercepts the oil as it comes down and takes any of the clutch material with it, and iron filing. So let's get into, yeah, it's good at picking up the small particles, hey? It's excellent. So I'm going to get in there and clean those. Really doesn't want to let go of the furry bits. Ha. Okay, we got that de-swarfed. There's quite a lot on there. You're probably wondering, you know, where does it all come from? Well, the transmission shares the oil with the engine, so there's friction surfaces in here, which are most definitely metallic. You'll see in a second. Let's try not to break the gasket. Alright, so we're in the transmission now. What you can see, each one of these 3 is a band that clamps around a drum. So given that it shares the engine oil, anywhere on those drums is going to end up as swarf that gets circulated through. You can also see in there's a planetary gear set. And so yeah, there's potential for wear in there as well, although I think they're brass bushed. So, but yeah, the adjustment that I want is on this one. Yeah, maybe not actually. Just seeing how much free play it's got. Might just take a little bit. Go get a, what does that look like? 11/16. Obviously, don't want this tight. Just want to take a bit of the wear. Just take that a much. What was bothering me was it felt like it was almost the equivalent of being on the floor before it was breaking. Oops, there's the light. Okay, that's looking good. That's going to do me here. I think these bands are fine. Yeah. And this one's reverse. Reverse, low. Let's button it back up, and I might just drop it down and put some oil in. Alright, so a bit of a word on grease cups. Now these are pretty ingenious in my opinion. These have been retrofitted with a grease nipple. I choose not to use a grease gun. So just opening one up for you. That's grease in there. So the cup is filled with grease. And what you're doing here is screwing this down. I've probably ruined the indexation as in how far down it was, but screw this down, and then when you've come back for 150 miles, you just give it sort of half a turn and it just injects a little bit more grease. So behind here is a pretty standard universal joint, like you find in any drive shaft. This is actually torque tube technology, and behind here, so this is greasing a bush, just a bushing, brass bushing, which behaves as a bearing for the shaft on the inside here just to run on. Look at my earlier videos if you want to see a refurb of that. So yeah, this is me lubricating, so I'm just going to screw this down a bit. And what it's doing, as it's screwing down, obviously the threads here, the cup is going down and it's pushing grease down as it goes. Too deadly, eh? We'll do a bit of a couple of turns on this one. It's been a while, and there is an index. It's at least on mine, every half a turn it's giving you the vibe that it's doing something. I'm not going to grease the pedals at this point. I greased them at 500 miles ago. And that should be okay. Alright, and it's just done pretty much highway driving. Right, floor back in, and then let's put this on the ground and put some oil in it. Okay, so before we put oil in, and to give you a perspective, this is where I was before. You'll see the grease cups up there, torque tube going back to the differential, and here we've got, this is an aftermarket dipstick tube. When it would have come out of the factory, it would have had two petcocks like this. It would have one petcock there and one petcock there. And to check the oil, you undo this petcock and make sure oil comes out. If oil comes out of this petcock, it's too full. So to fill the oil, we undo that petcock, and then we simply pour oil in until it runs out of that, which is pretty cool. Okay, up the top now. So this here is our oil fill point. It's just a pull off. Lovely little brass number. And we'll put 3.5 to 4 litres in there. But I'm just going to pour it until it comes out. Okay, what are we using here? So given the warm climate, this is actually a 5W30 oil. They call it a 540 because I suppose they assign 10 extra points for the extra zinc that's in here. So for me, I mean, you can go on the forums and there's a list of, I don't know, let's not exaggerate, probably a dozen different recommendations on oil. Most hover around the 30 weight. Go too low, like on the 20 and on the 20 weight, it doesn't resist shear well enough. Go up too high, as in if you went to a 40 potentially, it's not going to, without an oil pump, this thing just slings oil around. It's potentially not going to get where it needs to go. So the compromise is a 30 weight, 5 wind cold. So I think that'll do it for me, and it's got lots of zinc, which is what I want. the spigot needs to be opened. Must have been a bit of a blockage in there. You don't want to overfill. That I know for sure. I'm just going to let that drip until it stops dripping. All good, eh? What's next? Steering. Let's go have a look at that. Okay, here we are at the steering end of things. So the issue I would like to complain about is when turning, sometimes you'll get to a point where that happens. The steering wheel turns, but the steering, it doesn't steer the wheels. So if you're looking down at the wheel there, if you can see that, there's a bunch of, it's not free play, there's something going on in the gearbox. This is the steering gearbox here. So let's just break that open and have a look. Yeah, there's a 1 1/16 socket. That isn't actually. That is. Now being brass, clearly it's not 200 foot-pounds of torque on here. You can see it might have been over-tightened at some point. Alright, what's going on here? Try and get you a little bit of vision there. As you can see, it's got a key. Looks like it's supposed to have 2 keys. It just has a really slipping kind of feeling when I do that. The wheels aren't turning. Okay, so let's pull that off. And take the key out. This unscrews. You're getting a special treat today. 1914 planetary gear set to give you gear reduction on your steering. Alright, so that's what she looks like inside. Bring it in a bit better. Okay. So let's put the wheel, maybe put the wheel back on. Let's see if I can get it to misbehave. I'll have to bring it back. Okay, maybe a bit of an explanation on how this works. So you can see these planetary gears, 3 of them, 1, 2, 3. Each of them is riding on a pin. Now if you visualize that each of these 3 pins, like this, are actually connected to the steering column. That's connected to the steering, the Pitman arm down there. So what happens is when you turn the wheel, watch the motion of those planetary gears and their associated connection with the steering column. So watch how slow that pin rotates that way when I turn the steering wheel. So it's geared down basically. And doing this, it actually feels much better, like it's more direct now. So what I did differently, I can't really see it here honestly, is I did put the keyway in there on this opposite side. I don't know if that improved it or if there's something going on in here. What I might do is just try repacking it with grease. All the grease is pretty much gone. Let's repack it with grease and then tighten this down, and it should hold the gears in a bit better. Maybe that's what's going on, I don't know. But that lack of confidence, I mean, there's a bit going on there, but no, that's fine. Makes riveting viewing, I'm sure, but anyway, I'm This is my memento of fixing the steering before I crash it today. That might illustrate it a little bit better. So that's literally what the steering wheel is connected to. And that meshes in with each of these planetary gears. Each of those is connected to the steering column. So what you're effectively doing with the steering wheel is turning these three around. A little bit of play in there, nothing terrible there. I'm just going to pack heaps of grease in here as well, where that bush is there, and it'll be good as gold. Alright, steering investigation done. It does feel much better. There's still that kind of uneasy from there to there. It just sort of slips, but it's both ways and it's just taking up the slack in that planetary gear train, I think. Anyway, that needs gluing at some point. The steering wheel's starting to come apart. Let's get on with the rest of the 150 mile service, and for that we need to go up front again. Alright, so for this we need to get oil can out. Very lucky this has its original oil can. Come on, fight me. Right, so what you've got here is grease point, oil point, oil point, oil point. There is a grease cup there, but I don't use it. We've got across there the same thing, oil point, and there's a couple of grease cups in the engine bay. Hey, let's do the grease cups first. It's right on the other side here. Oh, she dusty, but she's going to get washed afterwards. Alright, so we've got a grease cup here. Steer on the steering, and we've got a grease cup there on the back of the fan. And that's about it on the grease cups under there. Now, people I respect in the club have told me that you can tell a Model T has been well looked after if its suspension is wet, like here. I do oilies up every 150 miles, very religiously. These are kingpins. Let's get into that one. All right. Oops. Let's go around the back. It's missing an oiler here, unfortunately. those eventually. Okay, rear springs, front springs, that's pretty much it on the old 150 miler. Got the battery on charge here, yeah, it's pretty much full. Let's do the next step, and that is grab some air in the tyres and then take it for a wash. Nearly forgot to check the rad. So this is the temperature gauge, if you like. So what the driver sees, don't know if you can, it's right, the level's obviously right down there, but it's like a alcohol filled thermometer with the red indication. Let's just put some distilled water in here. Now easy to get overzealous. You literally just got to fill it up so it covers the where it's going to siphon into from, sorry, percolate up from. I find that it does find its own level. You can waste a lot of distilled water on these things, but I'm just going to fill it. It'll purge out on the road. What do we take? About that much. Well, these 5 litres, about 2 litres. It's very full. So probably a litre of that will end up on the road. Not a pressure system, so when it builds up pressure, it'll piss steam out everywhere, and that's angled slightly towards the driver, as you can see. So you can see what your temperature is. Right. I think I'm going to try and start it. Crank start. Let's get some of these tools out of the way. I heard someone screaming, "Hey, the petcock's still open." And it's still dripping a little bit. Let's see what the aftermarket dipstick says. I'm going to re-dip that. It says, okay. So it's not excessive, which is great. I'm going to turn that tap off and we will try and start it after a few months. Never let there be any doubt. Might just one under here. We'll turn that off. Wipe his chin. Okay, this is the carburetor drain plug or drain here. and drain. See if I did turn the fuel tap on just now, but let's get the corrode out of the bottom of it. Good one. I'll take you through the sequence. Right. So when parked, always turn the fuel tap off. So that's the off position there. Now it's an updraft style carburetor and intake. The reason they had updraft was that the needle and seat wasn't strong enough back in the day, and if you had a downdraft you might end up with fuel coming out everywhere from the lack of a shut-off valve. Alright, so this is the choke, or sorry, the primer. You don't use it as a choke, so it comes out here at the front. So as I crank, I'm just going to pull that out, and that pulls the butterfly shut, and that will effectively, it's more than just enrichment. You will end up with fuel gushing out of the carburetor. So let's give it a couple of cranks like that. And I'm just doing this until I see fuel dripping out, which it is. That's primed. Sometimes you'll get lucky. Turning the ignition on, and it'll just fire. Let's see if we're lucky. Nope. Okay, let's talk about throttle settings and timing settings. Okay, in order for you to not break your wrist when firing this thing up, this is the ignition advance and retard. So advanced is down, retarded is up, so you make sure it's fully retarded. I give it quite a bit of throttle. If not, you have to race to kind of catch it. Oh look, we've got a loose screw, I must do that up. And that's on battery power now. Gee, you can't see, it's a bit dark. Okay, so I like to go full welly both hands. The reason I do that is that if you just give it a sort of a half-assed, half a crank, giving you sort of 180 degrees of crankshaft travel, that's when it can backfire on you and pull backwards. And I'm using personal experience here, and please feel free, if you've got other comments, drop them in the comments. But there is contention around how to crank. You know, you'll break your wrist, etc. But what I find is give it full welly and just keep cranking it, and you'll end up with that flywheel spinning. And when you've got the flywheel spinning, there's no way it can go backwards on you. But anyway, I know the car, having it fully retarded like that, it won't ever kick back anyway. But if I was going to start someone else's Model T, that's how I'd do it. Handbrake. I'm just doing that to see if the ignition's working. Supposed to hear the trembler coils, which I'm not. Sorry, I had that on magneto, not battery. You ready? Let's go. Yeah, so that's how I started. Okay, so that's it to get a mobile again. I'm going to put the camping gear in. You don't need to see that. Only to say that there's probably about the same amount of room as the motorbike. So yeah, I'll be going as light as possible. But crikey, check out the dust on it. It really needs to be cleaned. So this is my airing up station. I'm going to air up and then bring the car up to the house with the hoses and give it a bit of a shampoo. Alright, good and clean. I haven't done the brass work, but it's not glamming it up camping. I need to clean the camera lens too. But let's fill this up with some food and get on the road. Two teaspoons of onion powder, the same for cumin, the same for paprika, and only 1 teaspoon of oregano. That gives us a burrito mix. Let's go camping. Let's go. Heading uphill. Not sure if you can see the temperature. Probably not. Let's find out. Let's give it some more welly. It's got some good torque. It's a pretty steep hill, eh? Had to back off a little bit. So that's the throttle here. More throttles down. Alright, we're here. No fancy smanchy camera work. warm. Hey Skip. And they're off. It's coffee time. Yeah, my gasket's no good. Too many times through the dishwasher. time.